Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashivasamarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Narayanam Padmabhavam Vasishtam Shaktim cha Tatputra Parasharam cha Vyasam Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindra Matasya Sishyam Sri Shankaracharya Matasya Padma Padam cha Hastamalakam cha Shishyam Tam Totakam Artikakaramanyaan Asmat Gurun Santatamanatosmi Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. The verses until now that here the teacher has been telling to this disciple, without self-effort, without overcoming the ajnanam through the help of knowledge, one cannot really find liberation. He said in 62, Nagacchati vinapanam vyadhi aushadha shabdata vina aparokshanubhavam brahma shabdair namuchyate. Merely uttering the name of a medicine's name without taking the medicine, one cannot really get rid of sickness. Similarly, Brahma Shabdena, by merely uttering the word Aham Brahmasmi Idi Shabdena, Namuchyate, Bandaihi Namuchyate, Bandat na Muktihi, not Bandaihi, Bandat. And the same idea is given here in this 63 also, which we did. We again read it here together. Akritva drishya vilayam ajñatva tattvamatmanah brahma shabdhe krudo muktihi ukti matra phalenranam. Akritva drishya vilayam. Drishya vilayam, drishya vastu, drishya jagat vilayam. Vilayam, that is subsidence of the world, which we also saw in the Saddarshanam class also. The Jagat, according to Ramana Maharshi, Jagat is none other than what is perceived by the senses. Indriyaihi vina Jagat na drishyate. World is not perceived without the senses. Sarvendriyani manovashaha eva. Manovashe sarvendriyani. All the senses are controlled by the mind. Manaha vritti rupaha. Vrittehe moolam aham vrittihi. Tasmat aham vrittim vina na jagat. That is his logic. Without aham vritti, there cannot be any world. As much as aham vritti is subsided in the sleep, there is no world. Diya udeti, diya astameti. That's what he said. Diya saha udeti, diya saha astameti. Along with the aham vritti, the world appears. Along with the aham vritti, the world subsides also. So here, the drishya vilayam, when it is said, how do we have the subsidence of the drishya vastu? It is not possible without turning our attention away from it. Drishya vilayam drishyasya saptajanya vritti vishayasya chit vishayasya va tena shringadehe brahmanascha varanam ajnanantasya jadasya sarvasya brahmya vidirikyasya vilayam brahmani pravilapanam akrutva. That's what I was explaining again in the last class also, or the Amrita Bindu, and as well as in the Saddarshanam. There is avidya is the karanam for the vritti. The mind is nothing but an expression of avidya, the ignorance. So, vrittehe karanam avidya, vrittehe ashrayah brahma. Just like sarpasya karanam avidya, sarpasya ashrayah rajjuhu. In the state of sleep, the aham vritti subsides into ajnanam. Whereas in samadhi, aham vritti merges into Brahman. That is the difference. Therefore, when a person wakes up from the sleep, he says, aham kimapi na janami. Kyun? Because the aham vritti has subsided into avidya. Whereas, in the case of a person who has done the nididhyasanam and due to the savikalpa samadhi and nirvikalpa samadhi dwara, he has reached the point of subsiding the mind into, merging the mind into the ashraya. When the ashrayam nyatva, ashrayam brahmanam nyatva, uddhana samaye, when he wakes up, what does he say? Aham brahmasmi iti katyati. Just like a person who understands the rope as the very support of the snake, after having realized the snake, the rope, thereafter there is no more perception of the snake anymore there. Whereas a person who does not engage in finding the reality of the snake and went on in doing everything else, will not find the rope. Finally, no hope for him. No rope, no hope. So, what is the drishya vilayam? Drishya vilayam, it says here, vilayam brahmani vidapanam. Without doing that, akrutva, atmanaha tattvam ajñatva, not knowing, sajadiya vijadiya swagata vedarahita sarva adhishtana satya swayam prakasha anandarupatam ajñatva, not knowing that which is the very support and which is of the nature of existence and bliss. Uktimatra phalaihi, merely repeating the name Brahma, Brahma, Aham Brahma iti, Uchcharanamatra prayojanaihi, Brahma shabdaihi, Bahya shabdaihi, Antaranubhavam vina, Uchcharyamanaihi, Aham Brahmasmi ityadi shabdaihi, Nranam muktihi kutah hai. कैसा हो सकता है? Merely repeat the name of the medicine, will you get cured? Tylenol. You will get a headache to others also, not only to yourself. So, naiva sambhavati, it's not possible. एतेन आत्मतत्त्वज्ञाने समस्तदृश्यप्रविलापनं पुरस्सरं ब्रह्ममात्र अवशेषणं परमकारणम् इति उक्तं व्यतिरेकमुखेन अकृत्वा इति दृश्यप्रविलापने तत्त्वज्ञानं न अन्यथा. Only when the drishya vilaya, drishyavaritam chittamatmanaha, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi would say, chittam drishyavaritam, when the mind has been turned away from the perception. Now again, the understanding is that from Vishaya to Indriya, from Indriya to Manaha, Manaha to Ahamvritti, Ahamvritti to Brahman. That is the way to come back. So one would say that if we withdraw from the world, will the world continue or not?
Yes.
It will. But what's your problem? You mukti किसके लिए? आपके लिए और जगत के लिए. Huh? Who wants liberation? Don't say that if everybody gets liberated, then I will get liberated also. ऐसा नहीं. As it is said, if you are hungry, somebody else, you don't wait for somebody else to eat. In the same way, if one looks for the Paramapurushartha, that is moksha, one has to know that let me leave the world as it is, because the world is not an issue now. Think about how Krishna had advised Arjun. Is it not that he said, I'm not going to change anything in the war? Kauravas will be there, Karna will be there, Dronacharya will be there, Bhishma will be there. But what you will be? Do you want to liberate yourself or not? That is what I am going to talk about. I am not going to change any situation here. Because the subject matter is what? Atma Mukti. So, therefore, Drishyavaridam Chittam. Drishyavilayane eva jnana prapti. So therefore, drishyavilayam ajñātvā tattvamatmanah akritva drishyavilayam brahmashatyehi kudo muktihi. So one more example he gives in the next verse, verse number 64. Akritva shatru samharam agatva kila. Amen. This is the same tune? No. Akritva shat. Same tune, no? I may change the tune or not? Is it changed? No? Okay, it doesn't matter. Akritva shatru samharam agatva kila bhushriyam raja hamidi shabdhanno raja bhavitum arhati. Akritva shatru samharam agatva kila bhushriyam raja hamidi shabdhanno raja bhavitum arhati. That is Ramayana.
Other one was Bhagavad Gita.
So in between somewhere else it is not Bhagavad Gita, neither that nor this it will say. Alright. Shatru samharam akrutva, without killing the enemies, agatva akila bhushriyam, without obtaining all the prosperity through that win, raja ahamidi shabdat, I am the king. In this way, when somebody says, na raja bhavitum arhati. Without investing in the share, looking at the share market, you will not get anything. Every day sit in front of the TV and look at what is happening. You, by looking at what is going on in the share market, without you investing, how will you get the money out of it? Without you winning the war or winning the enemy and getting the prosperity or the land, etc., by merely saying I am king, you are only making only. You may be a king, but you are making nothing else. You are making a fool of yourself. Raja ahamidi shabdat, na raja bhavitum arhati. So, अप्राप्य केवलम अहम राजा इति शब्दात् न राजा भवितुम अर्हति राजा भवितुम न अर्हति इत्यन्वयः राजत्वे सकल शत्रु विलय Purassaram Samasta Bhu Shri Praptihi Yata Karanam Evam Sakala Drishya Pravilapana Purassaram Atma Tattva Jnanam Muktva Api Iti Bhavaha. Here there are two things are given. One is killing the enemy and obtaining the wealth. Then only you are a king. In the same way, killing me here, it indicates turning away your attention from your preoccupation with the world and asserting yourself as Aham Brahmasmi. Jnana Praptya, or here it is said as Samasta Bhushri Pratihi is none other than Atma Tattva Jnanam Muktva Muktau Api Muktau Api Iti Bhavaha. The other one is for Bhukti, this is for Mukti. Example is for Bhukti, this one is for Mukti. Meaning Prayatnam Karaniyaha. There is effort to be put two things. One is to remove the impurity of the mind by turning its attention away from it, from the world. The other one is assertion. That is what is known as Anvaya and Vyatireka. Anvaya is assertion of the self, Vyatireka is removal of the not self. Now, another example. Shankaracharya is having so many of them coming out of his pocket, one by one, because he is relentless about explaining this with as much as possible, with all different possible illustrations. So one more he brings in the verse number 65. It is very beautiful one. This is a different meter, okay. Aptoktim kananam tato parishiladi.
Aptoktim kananam tato parishiladi.
Utkarshanam svikritim.
Utkarshanam svikritim.
Nikshebas samapekshate nahi bahihi.
Nikshebas samapekshate nahi bahihi.
Shabdaistu nirgacchati.
Shabdaistu nirgacchati.
Tadvat brahma vitopadesha manana.
Tadvat brahma vidopadesha manana.
Dhyanadibhir labhyate.
Dhyanadibhir labhyate.
Maya karyatirohitam swamamalam.
Maya karyatirohitam swamamalam.
Tattvam na duryuktibihi.
Tattvam na duryuktibihi.
Aptoktim kananam tato parishiladi utkarshanam svikritim. Nikshebas samapekshati nahi bahihi. Shabdaist nirgacchati. Tatpad brahma vitopadesha mananadhyanadibhir labhyate. Maya karyatirohitam swamavalam tattvam na duryuktibihi. If there is a treasure hidden under the ground, you will never know until somebody who knows about it tells you. Often when we see some of the movies, where they have this treasure hunt, people who have different treasures and then they have hidden long time back, many centuries back, it has been hidden and nobody knows, and then somebody finds some kind of a scroll, and then it's there, it is indicated longitude and latitude and all that. Then somebody goes in search of that particular area where it is hidden, and then having reached there, they do not know, they cannot identify the place. Then they need the local person, somebody who knows the ancient, what has happened. So then that person is telling that here is the spot, here is where you have to dig. The digging is called Khananam. So that Khananam is digging, but it has to take place in the right place where it has to be found. So from whose in direction? Apta Uktim Khananam. Based upon the people who have understood where the treasure would be. So accordingly that needs to be removed. And Tata Upari Shiladi Utkarshanam. Having discovered the place where it is possibly, then what one should do is that one has to, the big rocks will be there on the top of it. That will be slowly to be removed from that place. A treasure hidden deep below under the earth can be found only when the exact site is known first. Then evacuations to be carried out on the earth, stones, etc. Shiladi Utkarshanam Swikritim. Only then you will obtain the real treasure which is hidden behind. So here, then what? Nikshepaha has to be thrown out. Whatever is another that is not necessary needs to be removed from that very spot. Otherwise, they will, add more confusion only there. Samapekshate, then it is available for you to see then. Not by merely having that paper or somebody state. Nahi bhi shabdaihi nirgachati. Not by some mere sound or come out, come out, come out. It won't come out. You have to put an effort to take it out. So in the same way, Tadvat, in the same way, Brahmavidaha Upadesha. Brahmavidena Upadesha. So Brahmavid, men of wisdom who have gained that correct knowledge of the absolute truth, their Upadesha Shravanam. First you have to listen to these words uttered by the people who have already understood the nature of the reality and they have personal experience of that. So there, Brahmavid Upadesha Manana Dhyanadi Bihi Labhyate. By that practice of Mananam and Dhyanam, it will be available to you. What is that to be removed? Maya Karya Tirohitam. Swam Amalam. That one which is the Amalam Tattvam, the pure nature of oneself, which is now Tirohitam, Mayaya Tirohitam. Maya Karya Tirohitam, hidden under the illusion of the effects of Maya. Swam Amalam, the pure self, Tattvam, na Dhuryuktibihi, not by any other perverted reasoning. The important thing that is to be understood here is, underline it, Brahmavido Upadesha Mananam Dhyanam Cha. It is to be recognized that not anybody and everybody's reasoning and logic will reach you to the realization. That is what today's problem is. Every what called Dom, Dick and Harry comes and says, I am realized. So all of you follow. Then what happens? Those people who follow such people, they fall low. They don't follow, they fall low. Because there is no, I'm not talking only about the traditional aspect of it. But the very important point that again and again Shankaracharya points out me is that आपका मुक्ति आप ही कर सकते हैं, कोई और नहीं कर सकते हैं. Somebody else cannot do what you should do. Your liberation is entirely your responsibility. No shortcut here. Anybody shows a shortcut is only getting a shortcut for himself. There is a cutting percentage in that for himself. That is all it is. So, just like here, if you have been told that there is a treasure below the earth, then you have to dig yourself, remove the unwanted things away, and then discover it. Not by just reading that very statement. And who has to tell? Who knows? That's why he said, Aptoktim kananam tato pari shiladi utkarshanam svikritim nikshepaha samapekshate. So only when it is done, by understanding that it is there under the earth and removing the stone, etc., then nikshepaha samapekshate. Nikshepaha means that very treasure is available. Not bahi shabdaihi, not merely by uttering some names. In the same way, Brahmavita Upadesha Manana Dhyanadibhihi Labhyate. The tradition holds this point very clearly. Shravanam, Tadanantaram Mananam, Tadanantaram Dhyanam, Ityadi Sadhanehi Upalabhyate. Because Maya Karya Tirohitam Vastu. This is the effect of the Maya has make it hidden. See, as we see that if it is an available vastu somewhere externally, somebody can give it to you. ये ऐसा नहीं चीज है, ये आपका ही अंदर ही है, आपका अंदर ही सदा है, always there. What is that which is to be removed here? Maya karya. The effect of Maya which is deluding you, which is not making you look in that direction, which is diverting your attention to something else. That's why Swam Amalam Tattvam, one's own pure absolute reality, not by any duryukti bihi, not any by crooked means. No crooked means. All other methods are only temporary. All other methods. Many people say, okay, I am doing, Swamiji, one person came to me and said, I am doing sky. Then what is sky? Sahaja Kundalini Yoga. Okay, very good, nice. Now I said, okay, what do you do then? No, Swamiji, the energy comes from all the way from bottom, that goes up. How long? Just 10 minutes. After that, back to your routine. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsari. Nothing has changed. It is interesting that such people who have said to have such kind of a state of some experience, etc., they never become free of all that. They never become free of desire or passion or lust or greed or jealousy. Then one would wonder, what are they free of? What do you mean by that freedom then? A freedom just as an experience, as some short-term experience? Is that what we are talking about as freedom here? Moksha means total freedom and no more going back to your old ways. Where there the individuality is destroyed, there is no question of presence of kama or krodha or anger, lust, passion, greed, jealousy. Have no place there. Because from there, these are all the effect of Maya. From that only you are trying to come out. Keeping that intact, all else they do. क्या कर सकते हैं? This is common sense. You just use the common sense and realize this. If I have to be free, what am I getting freedom from? Is it just a temporary fleeting experience? Is what you call freedom? Or freedom in such a way that I am no more disturbed by any of my preconditions of the mind or the situations outside in this world or any of the so-called deep-rooted vasanas which are dictating my thoughts. That is what the freedom is. If that is not achieved, then what are you trying to do? Wasting money, wasting time. That's why Shankaracharya and such other masters again and again point out this. It is you have to do it, and it is by your own prayatna alone can be done. Nobody else. Bhagavan Krishna standing there, what is he telling Arjuna? I will give you mukti. You have to do this. And what is that? Somebody will say, Swamiji, is it not say, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamegam Saranam Raja Aham Tva Sarva Papena Moksha Ishyami. Is it not he saying that he will give moksha? Yes, but what he has to do? Is he saying without you doing anything I will give you? No. What you should do? Sarva Dharman Parityagam Kuru. That you can't do. What does that mean? Ego you give up. Ahankara Parityagam Kuru. That is what he's trying to say. Sarvadharman Parityajya. And how do you, what do you mean by that? Mam ekam sharanam. What does it mean? कोई और आश्रय नहीं आपको. There is no other way to go. Maya saktamana partha. Is it not? In the 7th chapter, beginning itself, he said, Mayasakta manaha, mamashritaha. You are taking asakti in me only, you are taking ashraya also in me only. Then, yes. Jnanam savijnanam vakshyami. I'll tell you what it is knowledge and what is experience. Anyway, so here, without the personal effort in the form of Shravana Manana Nididhyasanadibihi eva labhyate. Maya karyaturyuhdam maya ajnanena tatkaryahascha ahankaradidehantai koshaihi tirohitam pravibadda sputamanam brahmavid upadesha manana dhyanadibihi labhyate asamantat upadesha upadesha brahmavidah upadesha brahmavidopadesha यद्वा ब्रह्मविदे इति व्यस्तं पदं तृतीयान्तं तेन उपदेशः तत्कर्तृकत्वं लभ्यते. So here the word is just technical words. Brahmavidopadeshah. So Brahmavid Opadeshah. It should be taken as Brahmavid Opadeshah. Meaning the Brahmavidah Opadeshah means the advice given by the Brahmavids. Or the instructions of the Brahmavids. So that way, Naisha Tarkena Matirapaneya iti Shrutehi. In Shruti very clearly says, by Tarka you will not get this knowledge. By logic you will not get it. Shruti Anusarinaha Yuktayastu Abhyubeyantaha. Only by the method of thinking given by the Vedanta it is possible. Pandito Medavi Gandhareneva Upasampadhyate iti Shutya eva Sat Tarkasya Apyubayatatvat. By Tarka it will not be possible. Continuing here. The next word, the reason for prayatna is emphasized again. Verse number 66. Tasmat sarva prayatnena bhavabandha vimuktaye svenaiva yatna kartavyah rogaderiva panditaihi. Tasmat sarva prayatnena bhavabandha vimuktaye svaireva yatna kartavyo rogadaviva panditaihi. Rogadehi, rogadau, both are correct. Here in Gurudev's thing, marogadau it's written. Rogadau iva. We'll take that only. Tasma, therefore, prayatnena, by effort, bhavabandha vimuktaye, to liberate from this world, swaihi eva yatnaha kartavya. By oneself alone the effort has to be put, like that of roga adau, like that of the from disease, etc. For one alone has to put effort. Therefore, panditaihi swaihi eva yatna kartavya. Men of wisdom should put their own effort, then only. So, tasmad yasmad evam swiya bandha anyene nivartayidum na shakyate. It's not possible somebody else to do that. So, sadhana chadushtaya sampatti mata guru upasadya tan mukataha vedantan shrutva tadartam matva nididhyasasya nirvikalpa nishtaya brahma tattvam sputam avagamya moktavyam na kevalam brahya shabdadibi muktihi siddhyati tasmad ityartha. The word tasmad means therefore one has to, after developing enough viveka, vairagya, shat sampatti, etc., must reach the abode of the teacher, and with all the humility and faith should listen to the statements and of advice, including tattvamasyadi vakya. And then mananam krutva, dhyanam krutva, nirvikalpa samadhim gatva, then one is ready to be free. Pandidaihi buddhimadbihi rogadehe rogakshut pipasadehe vimuktaye yatha. Just like the physical disease, etc., cannot be overcome by somebody else's taking the medicine, etc., which is already explained before also. Now, finally says the teacher, having convinced the student that you have to do an effort, because the student should not hang on to him, right? Gurudev always said that, I am not a donkey to carry you. Don't hang on to me. Once I have given you the knowledge, stand on your own leg, stand on your own feet. The Guru's role is to give you conviction, knowledge and conviction and inspiration. Thereafter, the journey is yours. So, therefore, here, having explained to the student very clearly, my role and your role must be very clearly understood. I will give you the correct direction for the questions that you have raised, and you have to put forth your effort. So, evam tīvir mumukshavantam shishyam prashasya tadiya prashnam slagate. Now he is definitely praising the questions raised by the student, and then he will start answering one by one. What are the questions? Ko namabandha kadamesha agataha kadam pradishtasya kadam vimokshaha ko savanatma paramakka atma tayor vivekah kadametaduchatam. So the questions were raised correctly, and he is praising the student here, saying in the next verse, verse number 67, Yastvayadyakuta krita prashno variyan shastravinmatah sutra prayo nigudartho Jnatavyascha mumukshubhihi Yasvadya krutak prashnah variyan shastravinmatah sutra prayo nigudartho jnatavyascha mumukshubhihi. The questions that you are raised by you are indeed very, very precise. Yaha tvaya adya kritaha. Yaha, that which is tvaya, by you, adya, today, kritaha, done or questioned. What prashnaha? Krita prashnaha. Variyan, the most excellent indeed. And it is very sounding, the very word, the kind of the questions that you have raised very clearly shows that you are a Shastrajna. You have studied Shastra. So, Shastra with Mataha. Only those who are well versed in the scriptures can bring out that kind of a cohesive kind of questions. Also, it is so precise. Sutra praya. Sutra praya means it is concise. It's not too elaborate, at the same time not ambiguous as well. Sutra is the aphorism. In our tradition, Hindu tradition, you know that as Prasthanatrayi is there. Upanishad called Shruti. Then we have Bhagavad Gita, the Smriti, and Brahma Sutra as the third one. What is said in the Upanishad, sometimes it may appear to be contradictory. To clarify that, Brahma Sutra is written. It's a clarification on the various topics that are provided by the Upanishad. The cohesive understanding should take place, for which Vyasa had created the Brahma Sutra, 555 verses. And the definition of Sutra is very beautifully, you will see that, Alpaksharam asandiktam saravat vishvato mukam astobamam alpa anavadyam cha sutram sutravito viduhu. These are the pointers we should understand what makes a sutra. Now, you may not understand the word sutra. You know a formula, right? C2, what is C2?
Car- Carbon.
No.
Carbon.
Carbon.
CO2?
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide. H2O, you know. So you have but that is a H2O, and you don't need to explain it is water. Or CO2, you do not need to explain. But it is not like that. It is not a formula, it is aphorism. In the sense, the word, it may be, the words will be put in such a way that by looking at it, you would know what this topic is all about. Is equal to E is equal to mc square. Now, if anybody who is not a student of science, what will he look at it as? E is a letter, M is another letter, C is another letter, and E, that's all he will know. But one who knows what it really means, E means what, M means what, energy, matter, etc. So he will know, oh, this is what it means. In the same way, Brahma Sutras are those which are precisely speaking with limited words. That's why it's called Alpaksharam. First point is Alpaksharam. It has to be minimum number of words. Alpaksharam. Second is Asamdigdam, without any samshaya. It should not be ambiguous. It should not lead to confusion. So, it should be precise, minimum letters, and it has to be unambiguous, second. At the same time, Saravat, it should bring the essence, what you want to say. And Vishwato Mukam, encompassing all aspects. It must be substantial, and at the same time, it is Saravat. Vishwato Mukam. It will encompass all the required details within it itself. And Astobamam. Astobama means it has to be irrefutable. It cannot be refuted by logic. Irrefutable. Anavadyam. Defectless. Vadya, defect. Anavadyam. That is what is called Sutra. Now, if you see Narada Bhakti Sutra, you might have heard Narada Bhakti Sutra, right? Recently, Guruji also. How precisely he will put. Looks like, what is Bhakti? What does he say? Parama Prema Rupa Bhakti. Finished. That is the definition. That is, you have to understand what is Prema, what is Prema Rupa, what is Parama Prema Rupa. So, the definition of Bhakti is complete there itself. And then further only the explanation, what it means. And they are also in sutra forms. So, he says, if the way you have asked the question, the 7 questions, are not ambiguous at all, very clear. Ko nama bandhaha. What is bondage? Kadam esha agataha. How did it come? Kadam pradishta asya. How did it stay? Kadam vimokshaha. How is the release from it? Kaha asau anatma. What is known as not self? Paramakka atma. What is self? Tayoho vivekaha kadam. What is the method of differentiating these two? Uchchatam. That's all. He has included all possibilities into this. So that's why he says, Sutra Prayaha Niguda Artha. Very hidden meaning you have already incorporated it is Mumukshubihi Jnatavyaha. This needs to be known by all those who seek liberation. That is why I am praising, oh my dear student, the way you have asked this question. So, not kevalam tibra mumukshaya uttama adhikaritvam te, not only you are uttama adhikari, abitu mumukshu jnaya nyuna anadirikta vishayan krodi kritya yad Aprakshirma tenabi medavitva vidvatva uhapoha vijakshanatwadi dharma manditatvam mumukshonam sarvesham yatavya marga darshakrosidhi mahatmana guruna shlagitah bhakti shraddhabhihi bhakti shraddha abharita manaha shipramuktam grihnadi iti abhiprayena. So here he has said that you have not only become a qualified student but also have understood that this particular set of questions, when answered, one will become free from all the bondages. At the same time, it is necessary for the student to have enough devotion and faith with which only one can approach the teacher and ask, because the student should have the same amount of devotion as he has for the God he worships. Yasya deve parabhaktihi yata deve tada guru tasye hyata yete kadita hyartaha prakashante mahatmanah. In Didi Shveteshvatare, in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, it's very clearly given that the one who has devotion to the teacher as much as he has for God, then such a person will get the knowledge completely revealed to him. So, Adya idanim ya prashnaha konama bandha ityadi rupaha kritaha sa variyan atyantam varaha. That is the best. Tatra hetumaha shastravinmataha ye tavat atyantam shastravidaha taihi eva evam prasham shakyate edi bhavaha. Only those who have studied Shastra can really understand how precisely this question is asked. See, in one place, Bhagavan Krishna says, what is the tapas of mind? In the 17th chapter, he says, Manaprasada saumyatvam maunam atma vinigraha Swadhyaya is included there as the tapas. Swadhyaya is considered as the manasaha tapas. Why is he saying that? Swadhyaya, how does it become a manasika tapas? Because when you read the Shastra, when you read the words of the great masters, including the Bhashyas and Shankaracharya's verses, etc., the mind gathers a certain amount of not only purity but focus. That is the beauty of Bhashya. Why I am spending time in reading Bhashya is because the preciseness and conciseness of thinking. And that is why the great masters, when they speak or when they write, they don't go out of focus. They gather the ideas in such a way, and of course Sanskrit as a language has the ability to bring the ideas in a very concise form. When you read, your mind becomes so programmed to think in like that way. Otherwise, you will go all around the place, here, there. And sometimes when you listen to people, when they define certain words, you will, what is this definition is not at all relevant here. Because you are exposed to what the actual definition is. So when you read the Bhashya or go by the traditional understanding of it, the mind becomes very clear, unambiguous, doubtless. So that is why he says your question clearly shows that you study Shastra. Because the question that is framed, it is only possible by a person who has, that's why, tere evam prashtum shakyate, etavat atyantam shastravidaha, taihi eva evam prashtum shakyate edi bhavaha. And niguda arthaha, there is a hidden words are also there. Edat prakaranagantasya uttarasya sarvasyavi edad uttara rupatvat, and etc. So we will explain why it is called nigudatvam. And now he continues in the next point, that having praised the student for his two questions, now listen. I am going to tell you something. here onward, the teaching actually begins. Up till this point, the preparation. So the next verse, verse number 68. शृणुष्वा वहितो विद्वन्
शृणुष्वावहितो विद्वन्
यन्मया समुदीर्यते
यन्मया समुदीर्यते
तदेतच्छ्रवणात् सद्यः
तदेतश्रवणात् सद्यः
भवबन्धात् विमोक्ष्यसे
भवबन्धात् विमोक्ष्यसे
शृणुष्वा वहितो विद्वन् यन्मया समुदीर्यते तदेतच्छ्रवणात् सद्यो भवबन्धविमोक्ष्यसे भवबन्धात् विमोक्ष्यसे. First of all, he is calling him as Vidwan. Vidwan. Vidwan means one who has already done enough of study. Vidvatvam yasyasti iti Vidwan. Veti iti Vidwan. One who knows. Vidwan. Shrunu. Listen. Shrunushva. Avahito shrunushva. Avahita means without any deviation in your mind. Ava plus da. Da is the root word here. Da is to place. Place your mind in focus. So, avahitaha shrunushva. Listen. Yat maya samudiryate. That which is being spoken by me. Yat maya, that which is by me, samudiryate, is going to be explained. Ir is to explain. Iryate, that is being explained very well. What is that? Tat shravanat. Edat shravanat. That which you will hear, with that, sadhyah, at once, immediately, bhavabandat vimokshase. You will become freed from the bondage of the worldly existence. Gurudev always would say, listen, don't hear. Because listening means your mind is there behind your ears. Then only it is listening. Otherwise it is just hearing. So here says, Hey Vidwan, Medavi Tvat Yato Uktatma Vidyadikara Vishishta Vidya Adhikara Vishishta Maya Yat Samudiryate Sangrahena Vistarena Cha Samyak Jnanaya Yad Uchate. For the sake of you to understand very clearly, sometime precisely, sometime elaborately, Tad Avahitaha Vishayantara Mana Samchara Rahitaha. Meaning keeping your mind not moving about in other things. Shraddhaya shrunushva. Faith, you listen to it. Eda shravanat yatavidim ukta vakya shravanat. By listening, sadhyaha, at once, shravana samanantaram eva atmanam sakshatkritya. Having listened and also by following the other methods, manna mityadi, having gained the direct vision, bhavabandhat, samsara bandhat, kartrutva bhoktrutva, janma jara maranadi rupa bandhat vimokshase. Nitaram muchyate ityartha. You will become freed from all the impurity, all the imperfections and bondages. Now, interesting thing is, having said this, that you will have to listen carefully. Gurudev writes it very clearly that in this, indeed, this Vedanta is cheap. A seeker of liberation has only to discover a great teacher and listen carefully to his words, and immediately he shall experience total release. And so Vedanta is truly cheap. This one may be tempted to exclaim. Here is the clear example which amply illustrates that literal word meanings do not convey the right philosophical implications in Vedantic literature. If by listening one would liberate oneself, moksha would have been so cheap that it would be easily dispensed universally. But the scripture cannot be false. Mere listening cannot be the path for a total spiritual redemption. Therefore, we must understand that the word listening is used here in the sense of much more ample and accommodative than its dictionary meaning. So here listening means the following three other aspects also to be considered: mananam, nididhyasanam, then samadhi, abhyas. Now the commentator here, very next one, what it says mokshasya hetuhu pradamo nigatyate vairagyam. That is the next verse. So the commentator here, the commentator here is Shankaracharya of Sringeri. Okay, he is the one who did the commentary on this. Very beautifully he puts an introduction to the next verse. I'll just go through that for you. Idanim tadiya prashnanusarena tena jigyasitam vivikshuhu pradamataha kadam vimoksha iti asya prashnasya uttaramaha. Nanu ko nama bandha kadamesha agatah kadam pradishtasya iti pradamataha kritaprashnatrayasya uttaramanuktua tridiyasya kadam vimoksha ityasya uttarakatanam anujitam iti chet. See, he asked the question, Ko nama bandha, what is bondage? Kadamesha agataha, how did it come? Kadam pradishtasya, how did it stay on? Kadam vimoksha. Fourth question is what? How do I release? Right? First question is what? What is bondage? How did it come? How did it stay on? And how am I going to release? But the teacher says, I'll tell you how to get released. So the Purvapakshi says, he's not going by the order. The question raised by the student is, what is bondage? You tell me first. So the Purvapakshi asked this question. So for which the answer is, Nahi atyantam agnina dahyamane grihe kshipram jalasekadina Agnishantim akrutva kutra agnipatitah kadam patitah iti vicharanena kalayapanam yuktam tada asati niravashesham grahasya dahamanatvat. If the house is burning, what do you do first? Where did the fire start? How did it happen? Would you do that? First thing is, you'll just get out and take the water and then first clear it off. First get rid of the fire first and then make sure that you are all safe. Then you wonder, where did it, is it what do you call that? Arsenal? Or it's natural? All those questions will come later on only. And it is funny that, one king was traveling in a forest, and then as he was going, and he was little away from his retinue, and as he was going, he was shot by an arrow. And he was shot, and it's not a dangerous shot, but he was hurt. And blood was coming out. He was falling away from the horse, and then all the people have gathered to treat him. He says, before treating me, find out who killed, who attacked me. So the mantri was there, said, hey Buddhu, but that isn't a Buddhu. First of all, let us treat you. Let us find out first how to treat you before we, try to find out who has done it. In the same way, the question, even though raised by the student in that order, what is the bondage, etc., but the answer is going to be given by the teacher first, how the moksha is possible. So therefore, tata sarvaihi api ajnanibihi samsarika bantaha anubhuyate eva tivraha tan nirase sahasa yatna asteyah iti abhiprayena jnadavya amshasya madhye ananta shastram bahuveditavyam alpascha kalo bahavascha vignaha yatsarabodham tadupasitavyam hamso yata ksheram ivambu mishram. It is said, a student who is really a mumukshu must find the answer quickly to get released first. Once Gurudev approached our Swami Tapovanam after studying for some time, went to him one day. He said, I am not understanding what is Maya. Please teach me in elaborate detail what is Maya. Taponji looked at him and said, Pehle Vidya ko jano, phir Maya ke janenge. First of all, understand what is Vidya and then we'll talk about Maya. Because once you know what is Atma Vidya, then you will know Maya also what it is. So here, Shastra Padanam tu Bahu. Ananta Shastram Bahu Veditavyam. Shastra is so vast. To be, so many things can be read. Alpascha Kalaha. Isn't it? How much time we have? Bahavascha Vignaha. How many obstacles that we have? Our time is little, obstacles are more, but so many different things can be read. Therefore, Sarabhuta Samsham Vignaha Yat Sarabhutam Tat Upasitavyam. What is essential that you do? Sahasa Yatna Tadupasitavyam Hamso Yada Kshiram Mishram. Just like the Hamsa bird could easily remove the water from the milk or milk from the water, that is all it is to be done for that. In the same way, the student who is approaching the teacher with the burning need to get released, the teacher should not start for, I will tell you where the bondage started from. So a person with a coming with stomach ache, give me some medicine. पहले हम बताएंगे क्या क्या आपको नहीं खाना है, उसमें क्या क्या विघ्न हो जाता है, मैं बताऊंगा. अरे नहीं बताओ, मुझे मेडिसिन दे दो. Give me the medicine first before you do anything else. See, iti ityabhihi yukta uktya sarabhuta samsham gururado aha mokshasya ityadina kshipram mokshahedum vignaya tallabena sahasa bandhan muktaha nityanandam anubhavati iti abhiprayena kimcha atma anatma jnanam vina bandhaswarupasya vashyamanasya jnatum ashakyatvacha tatsarvam paschad vakshyami iti diya cha pradam kadam vimokshaha ityatra iti asya uttaramaha. So that's why he is saying, first let me tell you what is the way to come out of this bondage, and then I will tell you about how the bondage has started, etc. Those details I will give you later. That's why he takes the fourth question first. So that will be the verse number 69. We'll see in the next class. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkhabhat Bhavet. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Any questions? Yes.
So, you know how here Shankara